let's talk about something fascinating and honestly a little unsettling. We're going to dive into our own minds to explore the architecture of false memory. We're going to figure out why your brain is so good at convincing you something happened when it actually never did.
Okay, so to get us started, let's try a quick experiment. I want you to picture the Monopoly man, rich Uncle Pennybags. You can probably see him pretty clearly, right? The top hat, the mustache, but what about a monocle? Think about it. Does he have one?
Well, if you said yes, you're not alone. In fact, most people do. But you're wrong. He has never, ever worn a monocle. Not once. If that just kind of blew your mind a little bit, well, you've just experienced what's known as the shared false memory, or the Mandela Effect. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How can so many of us share the exact same memory of something that just isn't real? This isn't one person getting a detail mixed up. It's a huge collective thing. To understand how that's possible, we first have to totally rethink how memory works.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this whole mystery, we have to debunk a massive myth that most of us believe. We tend to think of our memory as this perfect recording device, but science tells a totally different and way more interesting story.
See, we have this idea that memory is like a video camera in our head. You just hit play, and you get a perfect, faithful replay of what happened. But the scientific reality, it's much more like a storyteller. Every single time you remember something, your brain is actually rebuilding that story from scratch.
Just think about that for a second. Every single act of remembering isn't just pulling a file from a drawer. It's an imaginative act of reconstruction. And right there, in that act of creation, that's where the whole system becomes vulnerable to errors.
So, if our memory isn't a recording, then how does it actually work? Let's take a look at the architecture of recall, how your brain literally rebuilds a memory piece by piece every time. Unlike your computer, your brain doesn't save a memory as one neat, tidy file. Nope. Instead, it kind of shatters the experience into all these different fragments and then scatters them across different parts of your brain. These fragments are the building blocks. So your brain isn't storing the whole movie. It's storing the raw materials, some key visual details, the emotions you felt at the time, maybe a particular sound or a smell, and, this is really important, just the general gist of what went down. The process of remembering, then, basically happens in 3 steps. First, you get a trigger. Someone asks you a question, or you smell something that reminds you of something. Second, your brain zips around, gathering all those scattered pieces. And third, it weaves all those fragments together into a story that actually makes sense. And right there, that's the magic trick. It's in step 3, during the reconstruction, that your brain has to fill in the gaps. It's like a screenwriter trying to patch up a plot hole. It takes its best guess, based on logic, on what should have been there, and on other information it might have picked up along the way. This whole filling in the gaps thing, that's exactly how fake information gets into the blueprint of our memories. So let's look at the main architects of falsehood, the specific ways our minds can get corrupted. So what are these faulty blueprints? What are the common ways our mental construction crew gets it wrong and builds a memory that doesn't quite match up with reality? Well, it turns out there are a few key culprits. First up is something called the misinformation effect. This is a big one. Let's say you see a car run a stop sign. Later, someone asks you, how fast was that car going when it blew through the yield sign? Just hearing that one wrong word, yield instead of stop, can actually change your original memory. Your brain just thinks, oh, new information, I should update my file. Then you've got source misattribution. And this happens to all of us, like all the time. It's when you remember a piece of information correctly, but you completely forget where you learned it. Was it in a textbook? Did a friend tell you? Your brain, trying to be efficient, just keeps the what and throws out the where from. And then there's maybe the weirdest one of all, imagination inflation. This is where we become our own source of fake news. The act of just vividly imagining something over and over can actually trick your brain into creating a memory of it that feels totally authentic. It's because imagining something uses a lot of the same brain circuits as actually experiencing it. Wild, right? So yeah, a missing monocle on the Monopoly man is a fun bit of trivia. But it is absolutely crucial to understand that these little memory quirks aren't just for parties. They have profound and sometimes devastating real-world consequences.
And I'm not exaggerating here. The fallibility of our memory is one of the most powerful and most underestimated forces shaping our world, from our most personal relationships all the way up to our system of justice.
Just think about it for a second. How many arguments with a partner or family member have been about two people having two completely different but equally vivid memories of the exact same event? It can rewrite family histories, but the place where it has the most devastating impact is in the courtroom.
Take a look at this number, 70%. This single statistic represents a catastrophic failure within our justice system, and it all comes back to how we remember things. That's right. Of the hundreds of people who were wrongly convicted of crimes and later exonerated by DNA evidence, about 70% of those convictions were originally based on faulty eyewitness testimony. Let that sink in. Someone's memory, a memory they were completely confident in, a memory they sincerely believed, sent an innocent person to prison.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Our memory is an essential part of who we are. It is the bedrock of our identity. But we have to accept that it is also profoundly, deeply human. And that means it's fallible. It's not a perfect machine.
You know, there's a quote that just says it all perfectly. We are all the unreliable narrators of our own lives. We're living inside a story that's being told by a creative, sometimes biased, and fundamentally unreliable storyteller, our own memory. And that leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending thought to chew on. If the story of your past is always being edited, if the person you remember being 10 years ago is a reconstruction built by the person you are today, then who are you, really? It's a question worth remembering.